Yeah, good evening, everyone. So, last session we started discussing about stored procedures. So, we are learning about stored procedures. So, how to handle the stored procedures, the statements, and all we will see. The main purpose of stored procedure is what is the purpose? Stored procedures are used for refactoring the code. So we discussed a technical point, na, refactoring the code. Refactoring is encapsulating the code into a single function method like. But what is function method is methods are always void, functions are always having a return, and procedures have both behavior, the behavior of function as well as method. So what is the another advantage, another important point is using stored procedures will reduce the injection attacks. Later in backend server side programming, you will learn about some security points. Actually, one important note is I given, I think already, stored procedures are required stored procedures are required to reduce injection attacks. This is important point actually. Stored procedures are required to reduce injection attacks. They are required to reduce injection attacks. Actually, if you are writing queries server side, then queries allows you to pass some parameters. And if anywhere you are allowing to pass parameters in a query, that will lead to injection attack. Later, server side, I will tell you how we do that. Actually, I will tell a simple point. Suppose in our programming example, I will give here. Actually, we are writing some query. Suppose there is a text box. We have a product ID. And this is having a text box. Usually we have some text box. And what we need here is we want user to some search and find something. Actually, what users can do is users will here will enter some ID and they are going to search. Now, behind that, to display only the products that belong to that particular ID, usually what query we write? We write like select, so some star from TBL products where ID is matching. Actually, that is coming from a parameter, some parameter. That parameter will store the value. We will collect the value and use it. That means this parameter value is coming from here. It is coming from here. We generally collect from the text box and send and we execute the query. Now what is dangerous here is the person who is submitting the query, because he knows the ID, unique number. Sometimes suppose he written a query like select, like delete from table. Like this he written the query and submitted. Now what will happen? This query will be added. After this, a semicolon will come and another query will be executed from table. That means you are allowing user to write some queries in the controls and submit them. That is dangerous. Why? Because see, first he should know your table name and the IDs and all. Anyhow, if he knows it, then deleting your data, modifying your data, it becomes easy for him. What he can do in the query, directly he can pass the value. He can write commands in the text box and he can submit them. And your application is allowing to execute such queries in the controls, then it is dangerous for application because hackers may delete everything. That's the reason sometimes you will find like you see virus. Generally, what a virus does in computer programming, you will come across with virus. What a virus does, what a virus does to your computer, will it suffer from fever, cold, cough? Then what will happen? Every virus have different nature. All viruses are not same. Every virus have different nature. Virus means actually it is a computer program, right? In general, we call this virus as vital information under seized. Vital information under seized. In short, we call it as virus. So different viruses will cause different they have different behavior. Some virus will affect some type of files. Some virus will delete some files. Some virus will change the extension of files so that the files cannot open. Some files will delete, some virus will delete the files. Some virus will change the file name. Some virus will uninstall some software. They corrupt your data. So what is the point here is how they are able to do that. That means your applications are allowing some queries to be affected from outside. That is not good. If you write manually query in the backend, it is easy to affect. So instead of writing the query, better what we do, we ask them to use what? Stored procedures. What is stored procedure? Stored procedure is a simple function. You just call the function, it will execute. You will not expose the entire query to him. You will just use a stored procedure. Generally, if hacker knows the query, he can affect the parameters in the query. If he don't know the query, he just knows we are just using procedure name. Then he don't know the query. He cannot affect it. It is little bit better in security. So it will avoid various types of injection attacks, which you will see means how they affect security issues we will learn. Actually, this is one of the main reason to use stored procedures also. So the main purpose of stored procedure is to reuse the statements. Just like a batch operation, you can manage everything. Another is to reduce injection attacks. We can reduce injection attacks. Now, when you are using stored procedures, yes, last session we learned how to define. syntactically, how do we define store processor? Already we discussed this, right? We need what? Delimiter. Delimiter requires a separator. You can use any separator. So default is this dollar. After that, we need a create command. So create what? Processor name, processor and processor name and your statements. We need a begin statement, begin and your statements here. After that, what we have to do? End delimiter, and after that, delimiter ends. Delimiter ends. We have to define in this. The basic syntax already we learned how we can configure the processor. Now we need to understand about the parameters. We need to understand about parameters. What are the parameters and how to use the parameters. Generally, in JavaScript based technologies, we already know why we need a parameter in a function. When you write functions, function can be parameterless or parameterized. Parameters allow to modify the function. Parameters allow to modify the function. So you can modify the function by using parameter. Actually, without parameter, a function will do the same functionality every time. It performs the same functionality every time. Just first example I will tell you here. Suppose you have print numbers. This print numbers is printing, just roughly I'm telling you, for people who already learned in JavaScript, they know this basic. So I is 1, I less than or equal to 5, I plus plus. Actually, this is a statement used to print. It is a statement used to print 5 numbers. That means it is a function used to print 5 numbers. Whenever I call print numbers, it is going to print 5. Again, I want print numbers. Again, it will print 5 only. Every time it will do the same. How you can make it in such a way that in one case it can print 10, in another situation it can print 100, in another situation it can print 5. How you will design any function so that it can be modified. We can change the functionality. That is can be done by parameters. This can have parameters. We can have parameter. What is the purpose of parameter? A parameter allows to modify the functionality. For example, here we will tell the parameter as like print numbers, how many? And we will use less than or equal to what? How many? Less than or equal to how many? Now, in the first case, we will pass 10 into it. That means it will take this 10 as parameter. It will use 10 here. That means it will print how many numbers? 10. And next time I passed 100. That means it will take this 100 into this and it will execute how many as 100. That means it will run 100 times. So it is modifying the functionality. In one case, it is printing 10. In another situation, it is printing 100. That means to do different functionalities, we don't need to create different functions. One function can perform all. For example, we want to perform operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Instead of creating four functions, we can create only one function which can do all four. Situation wise, it can change. That is possible by parameters. That means functions, methods, procedures are parameterless or parameterized. Parameters are actually, so a procedure can be parameterless. A procedure can be parameterless or parameterized. It can be parameterless or parameterized. A procedure can be parameterless or parameterized. So if procedure is parameterless, if procedure is parameterless, then it performs the same functionality every time. If a procedure is parameterless, then it performs same functionality every time. Parameters allow to modify the procedure. Parameters allow to modify the procedure. So a procedure can handle different functionalities. A procedure can handle different functionalities using parameters. It can change according to state and the situation. It can change according to state and situation. So parameters allow to modify the functionality. Now, how to modify the functionality? That means how a parameter can change. How do we define the parameter? Actually, when we configure the parameters like this, means just the syntax I'm agreeing, create procedure name, and here we have to define the parameters. We have begin and we have end. Just roughly I'm giving here. Create procedure and the procedure name and parameter. So whenever we call the parameter, that means we use call procedure name. We have to pass the value into that. We need to pass the value. Here so many points are there again about parameters, we will see. So actually when a stored procedure is created, the stored procedures usually have three basic things to understand. Means Usually you learn this in general programming language everywhere. Whenever we create functions, procedures, methods, the configuration contains three basic things actually. What are those? I will show you. Let me open my SQL. Yeah, right. So here, when you define the procedure, observe here actually a small. Yeah, first thing is you defined the procedure name, create procedure name. This is called as, usually we call it as, that is known as declaration. That is declaration. Every procedure have a declaration and what functionality it does. That means this is the functionality it is going to perform. This is called as, we call this as definition. Every procedure have a declaration and definition. Declaration defines what is the procedure name, what parameters it is having, and how it is configured. Definition indicates what functionality it is going to perform, what work it is going to do. That is definition. And actually, in this declaration, so this part that we have, this part, that means only the name and parameters. That part is called as, that part is called signature. Every procedure have a declaration, definition, signature. How to access any procedure and use anywhere you want? We can access any procedure and use in various locations by using its signature. Signature, na? That means by using this signature, we access and use it. So that means in the signature, what is defined, in the same way we have to use. Whenever you want to call the procedure, access and use the procedure, it is always about the signature. Now, in the declaration time, when you pass any parameters into it, while declaring, if you pass some parameters into it, these parameters are called formal parameters. Formal parameters. The parameters that you define while declaring, those parameters are called formal parameters. Whenever we call the procedure, that means we have call procedure name, into that we pass a value. This is called actual parameter. This is called actual parameter. That means we have formal parameters, actual parameters. While declaring what name you given, they are called as what? Formal. While calling, we will pass some value into it, that is actual. Now what happens is, this actual value is stored into the formal. Into the formal, the actual value is stored. So detail I will give you here. So detail we will discuss the point. So here, first point is, every procedure, procedure, every procedure comprises of, every procedure comprises of declaration, definition, and a signature. Every procedure comprises of a declaration, definition, and signature. So create procedure and procedure name. This is called as some parameters also something. Parameters we'll see later. This is called as declaration. So begin statements end. This is called as definition. And call, this is SP, name and value. This is called as what? Signature. That is called as signature. Every procedure will have a declaration, definition and signature. Declaration is what is the name you given, what are the parameters that you define. Definition indicates the action and signature is used to call and access and use it. So declaration defines the name and its configuration. Definition defines the functionality. It defines the functionality, what functionality it is going to do. Signature is used to access the function. Access the function. You can say access the procedure. Or call the procedure. You call or you say access. So signature is used to access the procedure or call the procedure actually. So every procedure have these three basic things. So what is the functionality it performs? That is definition. How it is defined is declaration. How it is accessed, that is the signature. And now the parameters defined while declaring, the parameters defined while declaring a procedure are known as what? Formal parameters. The parameters defined while declaring a procedure are known as formal parameters. The parameters defined while calling procedure are known as actual parameters. Actual parameters. Syntactically, create procedure SP name, stored procedure name. This is formal parameter. So we have some begin and end. We have SP name actual parameter. That means what will happen into the formal parameter. This actual parameter is assigned. Into the formal parameter, that actual parameter is assigned. Whatever actual values you pass, they are stored into formal parameter. Oops. So they are stored into the actual parameter, right? This is. So why you need a parameter? The concept we understood. Parameters allowed to modify the procedure so that every time it will not do the same, it will change according to the situation. We can use one procedure to change different values. Now, in MySQL, these formal parameters are three types. These formal parameters are three types. So we have in parameters, out parameters, in out parameters. In MySQL, the parameters are classified into three: in parameter, out parameter, and in out parameter. When you declare a parameter, it is important to tell what it is. Is it in or out or in out? What is difference is in parameter means when you call the procedure into the procedure, what into the parameter you will pass a value, and that value is fixed until the procedure ends. The same value will be used every time. The procedure is going to use the same value. It will not change the value. That means in parameter means it will take a value and it will use the same value every time. But out parameter means it changes. In one situation, it have one value. In another situation, it will have another value. That means it will not have the same value. It will be changing. So in parameter, it takes a value and it is fixed. Just like you have in JavaScript var let and const. What is difference? Var let actually will allow to assign. They will allow to assign. Const will not allow to assign. At the time of initializing what value you given, it will use the same value constant. It will not change. But var let can change. So in parameter will not change. Out parameter will change. In out parameter means it have both behavior. In one situation, it is fixed. In another situation, it can change. Depending on situation, it can fix, it can change. We have three types of parameters. So what is the concept here is the parameters are three types. So some problem is there. Yeah. The parameters are three types. So here parameters that are configured in procedure are classified into three types. We have in, we have out, and we have in out. Parameters that are configured in procedure are classified into three types. Are classified into three. We have in, out, and in out. Actually, in parameter takes a value and uses the same value across all statements that are executed by a processor. So out parameter can change its value, according to the statement. Can change its value according to the statements. It is not constant across multiple statements in processor. It is not constant across multiple statements in processor. In out can change, can switch between in and out, according to situation. In out can switch between in and out according to situation. Can switch between in out according to the situation. Right. Now, how do we define the parameters? We will see. And actually, when you define the parameter, so every parameter requires, so what it requires is parameter name and data type. It requires parameter name and data type. Every parameter requires parameter name and data type. That means syntactically create procedure sp some name. We have to write in or out or in out. Parameter name is equal to data type. We have to define like this. Begin and end. We need in, out, what you want. In, out or in, out, both. The parameter name and its data type. Data types are your SQL data types. What SQL data types we have to define them. So let's see one simple example. So we created a procedure here. and this processor is get footwear, it will get always footwear on. But I want it in such a way that it should change. In one situation, it should get footwear. In another situation, it will get fashion. Another situation, it will get something else. That means this category name is not fixed. It should be changing. Then what we do, create processor name. Here we need to define. So it will take a value and it will use the same value. At the time you pass the value, whatever value it takes, it uses the same value. The value will not change. Category name, whatever category name you passed. Now from begin to end, actually, from begin to end, it can use so many statements. Everywhere this parameter value is fixed. What value you passed, it will use the same value. It is not changing, fixed. Then what we do, here we need to define the parameter name, parameter type as what? In parameter we are defining. So is it a in parameter, out parameter you have to define. Why in? Because when it takes a value, it will fix the value and use the same value across everywhere. Now what is the parameter name? Parameter name is category name. Parameter name is category name. What is its data type? Data type is varchar some 20 or 30 I given like this. That means now what it is going to do. So this time the stored processor name is not get footwear, get by category. I'm just using get by category. Okay. Get by category and you pass the category name. It will use that category name here. That means now category is equal to, it is not fixed. It is not known. It will come from where? It will come from category name. Category name. It will come from the category name. That means whatever category name you pass, it will take the category name and it will use it here. Now what we are doing, this is the get by category. We will execute this here. And a processor is created. So in the stored processors, we have get by category. Wherever you want to execute, we have to call, what is it? Get by category. And you see, when I run this, it is showing error. Why? Because every parameter is required. It is mandatory. If you define parameters in a processor, without passing those parameters, it will not allow. And remember, how many parameters are required for a processor? The compiling system will identify them as arguments. So how many arguments a processor is expecting? How many arguments a processor is expecting now? One argument. That means many times people ask, what is argument? Argument is a term used by the compiling system to check how many parameters a processor needs. A processor needs 2 parameters, but you are passing only one. That means one argument is missing. Actually, one parameter is missing, but the compiling system will not verify as parameter. It will verify as what? Arguments. While declaring, we call them as formal parameters. While calling, we call them as actual parameters, but compiler will recognize them as arguments. How many arguments are expected? How many arguments you are passing? You see now the compiling system, incorrect number of arguments. It is not saying incorrect number of parameters, right? It is saying incorrect number of arguments. That means what is the point again here is, every parameter is required. Every parameter is a required parameter. Is a required parameter. Every parameter is a required parameter. So it is mandatory to define. And see, can we have nullable types? I will tell you, we'll see that. It is mandatory to define a value for parameter. So the compiling system identifies the parameters as arguments. The parameters as arguments. The number of arguments defined in declaration, the same number of parameters, are required. The number of arguments defined in a declaration, the same number of parameters are required. That means the parameters, developers will call them as parameters. Compiler will call them as what? Arguments. If you are missing a parameter, then it says that an argument is missing. So arguments also important. So formal parameters, actual parameters, and arguments. And remember, formal parameter is a memory reference name. In that you can store a value and use the value. So here you see now, whenever we call this, it is mandatory to pass. And it is a string type, so you need to pass a string type parameter. String type parameter, what it is? I want as fashion, get by fashion. Now I am executing this. It will return the fashion product and it will show. Right? Next time I am looking for footwear and execute, then it will get the footwear and show. That means it is going to use the parameter and handle the parameter. If the parameter is not defined, then it will say argument is missing. So we created one procedure and it can do different functionality. Means at different situation, different functionality. You can have statements also. Which I will tell you. Already we learned if case like statements. You can use them inside procedure. We can have variables also inside procedure. So decision you can take and you can execute. That means if the category is not found, then tell the user that unable to find this category. If category is found, then display that. Suppose I am giving some message, means some like electronics. When I say electronics, you can see it is showing electronics. Suppose I am giving the category name as accessories. If accessories are not there, it will show empty. It should not show empty. It should show something else. That means it should show some message. It should show something else. That means you can write a condition. If it is matching, do one work. If it is not matching, do some another work. That means it requires statements. You can have statements also inside the procedure. We'll see how to declare variables and also A procedure can change its functionality, and that completely depends on the parameter and important. So this is one example. I will copy this example. This is an example of a procedure. Means how do you define the parameter? So first important, we will see about in parameter. In parameter. As I already given definition, it takes a value and uses as constant across various statements in procedure. It takes a value and uses as constant across various statements in procedure. The value defined cannot be assigned with a new value inside the procedure. Inside the value defined cannot be assigned with a new value inside procedure. Constant will not allow assignment now. We already know that. Generally in JavaScript, you will learn constants. A constant will not allow to assign. It will just allow to initialize. So this is one example I will give. That is the example. So create procedure name. What is the parameter type in the parameter name? Data type. So call get by category electronics, like call get by category fashion, like this. So in parameter will take a value as input, and it will use that value. And important is out parameter will not take any value input. It will not take any value input. In parameter will take value input. Out parameter will not take value input. Its value depends on the query. It will change according to the query. It will not allow you to input a value. That is why this is in. So in parameter allows to input a value. To input a value. And that input value is fixed. Whatever value you input, it will use the same input value. Out parameter will not allow to input value. Then what it will have is, it will have the value according to situation. And that value is not fixed. It will be changing. That means the result of any exec function, the result of any function you can store in a out parameter, and you can use that result. You can use that result. that result will be changing. In parameter takes the value, out parameters returns the value. They will not take value. That means you just tell the parameter in different situations, it will have different value. You don't provide any value as input. It will be changing. For example, I want to find out the average of price. Now average you don't provide. Average it will calculate. Am I right? I want to find the average and return the average of products. Suppose I say electronics. Electronic products average price I want. Fashion products average price I want. So electronics, fashion, category name is changing. We will provide category name. Average also you will provide. Average also you will provide? No, average will be calculated and it is returned according to the situation. So two parameters are there. One is category, another parameter is average. Average will not take any value from you, but it will have a value. Understood? In parameter means it will take a value and it will use the value. Out parameter means it will have a value according to situation and it will show that value to you, return to value. It will not allow you to pass any value. The value depends on the situation. It is meant only for output. It will contain a value. You can just see the value. The value depends on the query. It will be changing. We'll see. Now, how many parameters you can have in any number of parameters? That means in parameter allows to input a value and you can configure multiple in parameters for a procedure. You can configure multiple in parameters for a processor. You can define multiple in parameters for a processor. So, for example, what I want here is, I want to get the categories. I want to get the categories belonging to a product, but not, I want get the products belong to a category, but not all, only whose rating is above 4 or rating is above 3 or rating is above 2. That means I want two values, one category name, another one is rating. Then how do we define? How do we define? So how do we define is, so we are creating a procedure called get category rating. Get category rating. We are using this. Any name you can give because already procedure is there. So I'm giving a name, get category rating. Now we have one parameter category name, another parameter that is rating. And rating is data type is what? Int. Integer is the rating. Now what we have to do? Select the products where category is matching with category name. What else? We have to use end na? And what? Rating. That means when the rating is greater than or equal to what it is? Rating. Whatever the rating you have defined as parameter. Now you have two parameters. It will select all the products belong to this category and with rating above this. It is not going to show all products, all categories. It depends on two options now. One is category, another one rating. We can have multiple parameters. You can define any number of parameters. That means you have multiple. And why rating also in? Because rating also we will provide. Rating also we will provide. We will provide the rating and we will use the rating. So what we do here, execute, the procedure is created and get category rating. Here I am using get category rating. Okay, get the category rating. Okay, and we need two parameters. One parameter is what? Category name. Category name is suppose fashion is the category name. Another one is rating. Rating is 3. I'm passing a number. And now when I execute and it will show here some problem. Fashion and the category greater than or equal to 3. What is the problem here? What I given rating is 2 here, and what we given uh, condition okay, because this is only one, no need of this. It should match with the category name, where category is matching with category name and rating is matching with the rating greater than or equal. I will remove this procedure. I am creating this again. So return value. So I given one something. Some problem in the data type, huh? Hmm? Greater than rating, right? It's fine now. Some greater than or equal, some problem in the operator, huh? Parenthesis also, parenthesis is fine, it's okay. Now category name is matching with this and the rating is what? Greater than the particular rating. Okay, if rating is above, what is it? Above 2, then it is unable to return. If it is above 1, then it is still not returning. Some problem still there. What is it? We'll check the products, what products it is having. Fashion is there. And 2. So category is matching with this category name. Rating data type is integer only, no? So let me check. It is having a field name. This field name is working fine. TBL what? Products dot we have what? Rating greater than rating we have given. Okay. It is greater than 3. Okay, now it is working fine. That field name is unable to access. So what is the field name? Field name is rating. What is problem is? Actually here capitalization doesn't matter. Then what it is doing? It is thinking that this rating and this rating both are same. The capitalization issue is there. That's the reason what I have done. From TBL products, I taken this rating, which is uppercase, and this is lowercase. That means it is ignoring the capitalization and treating both as same keyword. I used same word now for them. Better you use one rate, another one rating. Now it's okay. This is just to overcome the capitalization problem. What I have done, I am using table name and the field name. Because the both spellings are same. Capitalization doesn't matter. It will take both uppercase, lowercase, and it is thinking the parameter and field name both are same. That's the reason. So field name we taken from table name and parameter we taken directly. If same you are using, then that is the problem. Here we are not using same, different. That's the reason no issue. Actually, here also you can write. What is it? TBL products dot what category is equal to category. If a parameter name, field names are same spelling, then better you always use this mechanism. Otherwise, this kind of issue may come. So you can have multiple parameters. So how do we define multiple parameters? You can configure like this syntactically. Create procedure and SP procedure name here in so param1 data type. Some in param2 and data type. You can configure like this. We have begin and we have end. Right, that is begin and example is this one. We have an example this. So we have a delimiter, create procedure, get category rating. We have two in parameters, category, another one rating. So select from table. Now we have so many queries we can define here. Suppose so we have to create a procedure for sorting, and can can change the sorting order while calling procedure. While calling procedure. Create a procedure for sorting and can change the sorting order while calling procedure. That means suppose we want a procedure called sort products is the procedure. So what it has to do, you have to ask the field name, sort by price, sort by rating. It will take sort by name, any field name, and it will take the order. Suppose ascending or what, descending, DES, descending, ascending or descending. That means you have to pass the order name, ascending or descending. Now what it has to do, it should sort the products by this field, and it will display in ascending order or descending order. That means you say like this, sort products, and we say rating. It will sort the products by rating, and DESC. That means it will pass descending. We say sort products, that is the price, and ASC. That is what? Ascending. Ascending. That means we can change either ascending or descending, and we can change the field name. Now write the procedure and show me for this. How do you write? It should take two parameters. One parameter is field name. Another parameter is ascending or descending. Now it should sort by that particular field name and display in that sorting order. How you will write the procedure. Now try the procedure for this. How to write a procedure for this situation. Both are in parameters only. Both are in parameters. Both are string type parameters. One will take the word ASC, another will take the word DSC. How to create the procedure for that? It will take like string or command ASCDSC. It is okay, but the commands are important. I will tell you. That is just parameter name. It's not string, only parameter name. Right? Same two process you need to do, two parameters you need to define. You try it, huh? You try, implement that and test it and post it. Okay. As I told you, I will create a lab group today. I will share tomorrow to you. In that lab group, you can post the exercises. Some exercises I will give. Those exercises you can post. You try these. Some more queries I will give, exercises. Because in backend and front end, whatever you are learning, for backend, for front end, separate lab groups are there. So for backend also, we'll create one lab group. We can share some exercises so that you can practice them. Okay. I will share tomorrow. You can submit that. Now here, this is based on this, you can write multiple queries, right? There can be multiple parameters. You can configure multiple queries. Next important is another parameter. We have what? Out. One more important parameter type. What is the parameter type? Out. Out parameter. What is the nature of out parameter is? Out parameter will not take a value. It will have a value. It will store the value according to the such situation, and it will use that value. That means it is not going to take any value from you. That is one important. Anywhere if I given as take, that is wrong, not can change its value. So it can change its value. Here detail I will give. So out parameter, so it will not allow to input any value. It will not allow to input any value from input any value from procedure call. It will not allow to input any value from procedure call. It can contain a value. Evaluated as a result of any expression inside procedure. It can contain a value evaluated as a result of any expression inside procedure. It allows to access and use the value. It allows to access and use the value. So value in out parameter, value in out parameter depends on the query defined in stored procedure. Value in out parameter depends on the query defined in stored procedure. Expression can return the result, and store into out parameter by using into into command. By using into command, it can use into command. So here syntactically we have create procedure and procedure name. We have out parameter name and its data type. Here we have begin. We are writing some statement. In the statement, we'll have some expression. Expression result into parameter name. Parameter name. So out parameters are configured in a function call, in a procedure call by using param name. They are configured in procedure call by using parameter name. Parameter name. Right. And you can access the out parameter and render its value by using select command. By using select command you can do. That means actually sp name param name, and we have select param name. Whatever value is stored inside it, it will access it. We can have both in and out parameters, we'll see. But this is one in, another one out. So actually, suppose I want to get the average price of any reference. That means you are having, I want average price. So get average price. Okay, here I want to get out AVG. So AVG price, average price, that is the out parameter, and it is what? Integer. Just roughly I am using it. Later we will use multiple queries. Now tell me how to find the average price query. Already we learned those functions, na? So select star from. So here we will use average price only I want. Select average AVG. Average, what is it? Price. Price. From what? TBL products. Select average price from TBL products. It will find the average price. But this average price, how much? I need to store in this variable, in this parameter, because I want to use it later. Then where to store it to use it later? So what we will do? We will put here into what? AVG price, into AVG price. That means what will happen? It will calculate the average of price and it will store the average price into this AVG price. That means this is a parameter which will not take any value from you. It will not take any value from you. It will have a value according to the situation requirement. Whatever average price is there, it will get that. So it will not take any value. Then how do you call it then? I will execute this. It is executed here. So what is it? Get AVG price. Now how do you call this? How do you call this call? So get AVG price. And you don't need to pass a value because the value depends. But now argument problem will come because it is expecting one argument, na? And you are not passing the argument. But our argument will not take any value. Then you have to tell that at the net, what is it? AVG price. We need to define at the net AVG price. That means what it is going to do? It is going to affect. One row is affected. Means what it is doing? It will calculate average price and it will store that average price into this. So now we need to access and use it. Then what we will do? Select. We use a select command at the net. What is it? AVG price. I am accessing AVG price. That means average price we are accessing. This is end here. This is another. I execute this. That means it will get the average price and show. Whatever average price is there, it will get that and show. That means we have to just select the price and see. That's how we call it. So there can be multiple out parameters, but those are not expecting any value from you, but they will have a value. And what is that value? That changes according to the situation. The value changes. It will not take any value as input. In parameters will take value as input. Out parameters will have a value and show. Then in the arguments, how do you define? We have to use at the net. The result will be stored in that. We have to access and we have to use it. So this is actual example of that. This is an example of out parameter and how do you access and use them. That's the example of out parameters, how to define. We can do lot of queries. In parameter take a value, out parameter is just having a value depending on your query. It will not take any value from it. In and out parameter means it will take the value and it will change the value and it will store some new value later. It will take value from you, but it will use the value. After that, it will store a new value also and it will use it. Only in parameter means it will take the value and will not allow to change the value. In and out parameter means it will take the value and it will change the value. It will perform both. We can have both combinations in parameter as well as out parameters, right? So in and out parameters. Now inside the procedure, we can have variables. We can configure variables. We can have statements. We can write conditions. We can write cases. We can execute depending on that. That we'll see tomorrow. Right? In tomorrow's session, we will discuss about the statements, variables in stored procedure. How to create more complex procedures by using statements. We will learn variables and statements inside stored procedures, how to handle them. That we'll see tomorrow. Okay, right.